Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, October 1st, 2017, and this is your fun fact of the day. Biblical stories. The entire book of Ruth, rather a succinct story, takes place during the time of Judges. Really not hard considering Judges encompasses a couple hundred years, at least. Long story short, there's a man, lives in Bethlehem, has a wife, Naomi, and 2 sons. There's a famine in Israel during this time, so they move out to Moab, a neighboring country who really wasn't friendly to Israel, but they had food, so there we went. While they're there, the sons take wives, and also while we're there, they're there long enough that Naomi's husband dies, and the 2 sons die. So Naomi is left a widow with just her daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah. After some time, Naomi decides, alright, may as well go back to Israel. I hear they have food there. Well, it could be better. At least, someone there could provide for us. At least I know people in Bethlehem. So she tells her daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah, now stay here. Stay in your land where you're known, where you know the people and the customs. Go back to your mother's household. What do I have left to offer you? I am childless. Even if I met a man today and gave birth to sons now, would you really wait all this time for them to grow up and become your husbands? No. Leave. Depart from me. Orpah does. Ruth does not, saying, where you go, I will go, my mother-in-law. Where you die, I will die. Your land will be my land. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Seeing her determination, Naomi let Ruth come with her back to Bethlehem. They're there for a little while. It's during the barley harvest when they get back. Ruth says to Naomi, I'm going to go out and pick some barley. Naomi says, okay. While she's out doing this, a distant relative of Naomi's past husband, Boaz, he's out. He's watching his people in the fields, and he spots Ruth. Inquires about her a little bit. He takes notice of Ruth. He inquires about her a little bit and treats her a little fairly. Treats her completely fairly, and Ruth simply asks, why have I found favor in your sight, sir? Boaz replies with what he knows of her story, about how she's Naomi's daughter-in-law and all the misfortune that's befell their family. Tells all the men of his working in the field, says, keep your hands off of her, but keep her safe. Let her do her business, let her work in the fields. Don't chastise her for where she works, but make sure no one else puts their hands on her either. After the work, Ruth goes back to Naomi, tells her what happened, and Naomi praises the Lord, understanding that Boaz is a relative of theirs, and he is providing well for them. Gives instructions to Ruth, and Ruth follows them, and here's what happens. Boaz falls asleep on the threshing floor, after a long day's work and some eat and some drink. He wakes up sometime in the night, startled. There is a person laying at his feet, and Ruth identifies herself, as she was told to lay at Boaz's feet. Boaz commends her for not really pursuing men as a whole, not really just immediately pursuing a husband, whether he's young or old or rich or poor, and tells Ruth that there is another relative closer than he is to Naomi who could redeem them, basically provide for them financially. If he would, good, but if that relative would not, then I, Boaz, swear to you, I will provide for you and your mom. The next morning, Boaz catches up with this relative, meets him at the town gate, brings some elders of the town with him, and sets this situation down before this relative, who is unnamed, by the way. That's how unimportant he is. Says, hey, you have an opportunity to redeem this mother and her daughter-in-law. If you won't, I will. This other relative claims that he is financially unable to do so. So Boaz says, okay, let's make the deal. Transaction happens, the men of the town witness it. All is well. Naomi and Ruth are provided for. Boaz becomes their financial redeemer of sorts. Boaz and Ruth marry. They have a son named Obed. Obed fathers Jesse, and Jesse has a son named David. Yes, that David. There's a lot more to this story. A lot more about God's provision, about some timing, about how God put some specific things exactly where they needed to be, when they needed to be there, as well as using a bit of our own emotions to help along the story as was necessary. Read it yourself. It's merely 4 chapters. It's barely 3 pages in most printed Bibles. In other news, today is National Homemade Cookies Day. I'm not sure I'll be making cookies. I have a lot of apples, though. Probably making some streusel or something of the sorts pretty soon. Hope you've enjoyed this fun fact of the day. See you tomorrow.